I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable.
You know what Sean Diddy Combs is doing right now? He's fighting to make sure a jury doesn't see the infamous tape of him purportedly beating up Casandra Ventura in a hotel hallway from years ago. The defense has raised a number of arguments about why that key piece of evidence, maybe one of the most important pieces of evidence at his upcoming criminal trial, should not make its way in. And we're going to break it down for you right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Sean Diddy Combs wants a key piece of evidence, potentially one of the most important pieces of evidence at his upcoming criminal trial, to be excluded from ever making its way there. He does not want the jury to see it, to evaluate it, to consider it. Unless, of course, they've already seen it in the media. That becomes a question for jury selection, what they saw or heard leading up to this trial, but that's a separate question. But I am talking about the infamous videotape. The videotape of Combs apparently kicking, striking, dragging Casandra Cassie Ventura in the hallway of the Intercontinental Hotel out in LA back in 2016 that was published by CNN last year, May 17th, 2024. This was months before Combs' arrest and indictment in September on federal sex crimes charges. And let's not forget, 2 days after CNN published this tape, and it is graphic, it is disturbing. We are not going to show it here for you. It is just so difficult to watch. 2 days after it was published, Combs apologized on Instagram in a now deleted video.
I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I'm so sorry.
And we believe that prosecutors wish to introduce this surveillance tape to establish this as evidence of Combs' sex trafficking charge, namely of victim one, who we believe to be Combs' ex-girlfriend, Casandra Ventura. That she was not only running away from Combs, who was apparently seen on that tape just wearing a towel, but that she was running away from a sexual episode involving Combs and a sex worker who was allegedly in that hotel room. And remember the allegation here, right? That he would force and coerce women into these sex acts with commercial sex workers, freak-offs, all these different kinds of things. And we believe, based on prior arguments from Combs' counsel, the defense will be that they may plan to argue this was merely an unfortunate domestic spat between Combs and Ventura. That, as his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, once put it, evidence of Combs, quote, having more than one girlfriend and getting caught, but not evidence of sex trafficking. Also, by the way, Combs can't be charged at the state level for allegedly beating up Casandra Ventura because it's past the applicable statute of limitations, but you can see why it would play a key role in a sex trafficking and racketeering case, transportation to engage in prostitution too. Now, Combs may not want to even test his defense at trial. No, it seems what he wants to do would be to make sure that this video doesn't see the light of day in a courtroom, because in recent filings, Combs wants that video or videos excluded from trial. And for that, we turn to his motion in limine to exclude video footage of that March 5th, 2016 incident. Motion in limine is a pretrial motion that aims at preventing evidence from coming into trial or limiting it in some way. And it starts by saying, quote, there is no longer any dispute that the CNN footage from March 5th, 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel offered by the government at 3 separate bail hearings is wholly inaccurate, having been altered, manipulated, sped up, and edited to be out of sequence. As indicated below, CNN paid Redacted, don't know who this person is, Redacted, for footage, copied that footage in unknown ways, presented that footage out of order, and destroyed the original. Accordingly, all the footage from CNN is inaccurate and inadmissible. As for the 2 items of footage filmed by an iPhone 6, those pieces of footage are inaccurate and inadmissible as well for the reasons set out below. Now that's interesting, that there's apparently iPhone footage of this incident as well. So let me get into Combs' argument that all of this video evidence of this incident should be excluded, shouldn't make its way into trial. So the first thing Combs requests from the court is to hold a hearing. And at this hearing, Combs explains that his team wants to call a forensic video analysis named Connor McCord to show that this video evidence is inaccurate. Sean Combs' defense team argues the videos are unreliable, that they would unfairly confuse and mislead the jury, that they would be more prejudicial to Combs than it would provide any kind of relevant or probative value for the prosecution's case. They write, quote, "If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth a number well over the court's word limit." Again, the basic argument from Combs and his team is that CNN heavily and deceptively edited the video and turned about 10.5 minutes of footage into a 48-second, quote, out-of-order clip that ended with Combs appearing to drag redacted, again, we believe that to be Casandra Ventura, to a hotel room. And they argue that this painted the rapper and the music mogul in the worst possible light for the world to see. And as they previously incorrectly mentioned, prosecutors relied on this tape in prior bail hearings to support their argument that Combs shouldn't be released pre-trial. By the way, talking digital evidence, talking alleged crimes, did you know that cybercrime is growing more dangerous and widespread? It's threatening businesses like never before. I mean, did you know that in 2024, 1 in 5 businesses fell victim to ransomware and half of those were small businesses? Yeah. Now, here's the good news. We have a sponsor, Apollo Networks. They're here to protect your business and help you fight against these business-ending threats. They use the latest cybersecurity technologies to monitor your systems 24/7. They stop threats before you even know they're there. They prevent downtime. They safeguard your data. So beyond just protection, they optimize your daily operations by managing your backups, providing 24/7 tech support, and being your trusted partner for all your IT needs. Their mission is so simple: deliver elite-level security while helping your business run faster, more efficiently, and with peace of mind. No business is too big or too small to be protected. From one computer to thousands, they have custom solutions to fit every industry. So right now, you can go to apollonetworks.com/sidebar or scan the QR code on screen to get a free network health assessment and 50% off of your first month. But this is where things get interesting, because Combs claims that on November 13th, 2024, the government handed over to them 2 iPhone videos that were in the possession of redacted. So maybe Ventura, not sure, but they were in the possession of redacted. And Combs claims these videos are recordings of surveillance footage of the hotel incident, but they are very different, Combs claims, from the CNN video that was published. And it includes things that weren't in the CNN video. And that's when Combs says that they retained Mr. McCord, who apparently is a, quote, career law enforcement officer that specializes in forensic analysis of videos. And Combs claims that McCord concluded that the government's videos don't represent the original, the raw surveillance footage, that the CNN video was manipulated, and that there's a lack of metadata to know how exactly it was manipulated. Now, Combs' counsel claims that they were able to get their hands on 4 videos here. So CNN's published video and 3 videos with footage obtained by CNN from 3 single cameras at the hotel. And Combs argues that these videos were not the ones that CNN got from its redacted source, but that CNN paid their source for the videos, copied those files, and then destroyed the original video files they received. Quote, "To defense counsel's knowledge, the government has not investigated CNN nor redacted for destroying evidence related to this case during the pendency of the investigation." And actually, there's an accompanying declaration from one of the attorneys from a firm that's representing Combs. Her name is Anna Estevao, and she provides a bit more context on what these videos are. Quote, "After multiple phone, Zoom, and email conferrals with DWT," that's the firm that was representing CNN, "over the course of several days, DWT eventually admitted that CNN received a video file from a source, the original video file." And again, we don't know who this source is, but it continues that CNN, quote, "made a complete copy of that video file, and then the original video file, CNN complied with the subpoena and produced 4 video files." So aside from the video that was published by CNN for the whole world to see and that we all saw, there is also apparently, quote, "Exhibit I-2, which is a 6-minute and 13-second clip from the hallway of the Intercontinental. Exhibit I-3, a 2-minute and 15-second clip from the elevator bank at the Intercontinental. Exhibit I-4, a 1-minute and 59-second video of another view of the hallway at the Intercontinental." We don't know ourselves what these videos do or do not show exactly, but it's interesting that there's more footage here, or apparently. And by the way, this lawyer who's making this statement is doing so under penalty of perjury. and she declared, quote, "Despite knowing of the federal investigation, CNN counsel has represented to myself and Tenny Garagos," that's another one of Combs' lawyers, "that they destroyed the original footage they received. We have not received any information in discovery reflecting that the government has investigated CNN's destruction of evidence related to an ongoing federal investigation." Those are big allegations. And in fact, in another filing, another exhibit to be more exact, we have this email from Ana Estevao to Kate Bolger, who represents CNN, an attorney for CNN. And it reads in part, quote, "Kate, thank you for the call earlier. Based on our discussion, we now understand that CNN received a video file from a source, the original video file, made a complete copy of that video file, the copy, and as you mentioned for the first time today, deleted the original video file." Now, to be clear, CNN has denied these allegations. They have denied that it altered the video or destroyed the original copy. So we're still trying to figure out what's what right now, and even what that apparent conversation between Estevao and Bolger even was. But I want to get back to Combs' motion again, this motion in limine, arguing again that all this video evidence should be excluded. So at one point, as laid out by the defense, apparently the court, meaning the judge overseeing this case, Judge Arun Subramanian, he had advised at a prior hearing about what should be done regarding this video. And apparently he said, quote, "Slow it down, put it in the right sequence, or provide any other context based on the materials." However, according to the defense, quote, "After extensive discussions with Mr. McCourt, however, there are several reasons why all available video files are inaccurate and unreliable and cannot be modified to be accurate." What are those reasons? Well, first, Combs claims that McCourt believes the CNN video is significantly sped up, that it doesn't accurately represent human movement, that it inaccurately displays timestamp seconds, including jumping back in time, so it misleads the viewer as to the proper sequence of events. And there is also allegedly missing a considerable amount of footage. And when it comes to the iPhone videos that I mentioned before, Mr. McCourt apparently believes they too distort the events. Quote, "The aspect ratio in the iPhone videos differs from the CNN video such that Mr. Combs appears to be stockier and shorter than he appears in the CNN video, causing Mr. Combs to appear more domineering. 2, they inaccurately display timestamp seconds, misleading the viewer about the timing of the events. 3, they do not show the timestamps in the majority of the videos. And 4, they do not depict the entire incident." In other words, the iPhone videos reflect what the person holding the cell phone camera focused on when watching the footage. At times, the iPhone videos zoom in on details like a particular person's shoes, cutting out portions of the events depicted in the CNN videos. Further, because the iPhone videos were created by using a handheld camera to film a static image, the iPhone videos contain doubled images and blurred images, distortive artifacts that are the result of amateur re-recording. So in other words, neither the CNN video nor the iPhone videos accurately depict what allegedly happened in that hotel. That's according to Combs. And first, Combs' defense argues that the CNN video and the iPhone videos, they have to be excluded because the government cannot provide sufficient evidence of their authenticity, which is required by the Federal Rules of Evidence, more specifically, Federal Rule of Evidence 901, which requires a party to submit proof that that specific piece of evidence is what it claims to be. You can't just take the prosecution or defense's word for it. So you can do that by having a witness with knowledge testify about it or an expert witness testify. And here the defense argues that when it comes to the recordings, there is a high burden or standard to authenticate video recordings because they can be altered. They are subject to alteration. They can be subject to distortion. And by the way, video recordings, unlike other pieces of evidence, their argument is, and I think there's a fair point to this, they can have quite an impact on a jury, a very different impact on a jury. They are very, very important and persuasive. Quote, "The government has not proffered any competent evidence through which it could authenticate these videos. In the normal course, evidence may be authenticated through such means as testimony of a witness with personal knowledge, evidence that the proffered exhibit has distinctive characteristics demonstrating genuineness, and evidence that the proffered exhibit is the result of a process or system that produces accurate results and showing that it produces an accurate result. But this is not the normal course, and these methods do not apply here. Rather, in the absence of testimony by the editor or someone else with personal knowledge to determine how the videos were edited, admitting the videos would be grossly unfair and potentially highly misleading." And here there are several problems. Like, according to the defense, we don't have any information about the device that was used to generate the CNN videos. And when it comes to the iPhone videos, the defense makes the argument they haven't even had the opportunity to examine that particular iPhone. And you couple that with the allegations that the videos were distorted and altered and changed in terms of speed and frames and depictions of subjects, and that the original files were destroyed. Again, the argument is there's no way to properly authenticate these videos as being true and accurate copies. Next, the defense goes back to the claim that none of the files at issue are the actual originals, even though the defense argues they made a good faith effort to find them. And they also argue that the government's failure to investigate CNN and to not find reliable video and just to rely on what they claim are inaccurate, unreliable duplicates actually calls into question the government's motives here. And moreover, the defense claims the government failed the, quote, best evidence rule. What's that? Well, as Combs lawyers explain, and we learned this very early on in our law school evidence class, you always want to introduce the original evidence for purposes of authentication. But we live in a real world, and we all know that sometimes that is not possible. So a duplicate can be allowed unless there is a genuine question about authenticity. And here, Combs argues, there is certainly such a question. But also they say this: the government's only means of admitting the evidence is Federal Rule of Evidence 1004, which permits the use of a duplicate if all the originals are lost or destroyed, and not by the proponent acting in bad faith, or the original cannot be obtained by any available judicial process. The government's conduct negates admissibility under either prong. It has repeatedly refused to investigate, has not questioned key witnesses regarding the original recordings, and refuses to use available judicial process even to confirm whether the originals still exist. Rather, it has turned a blind eye, hoping that the court will permit it to use far more inflammatory evidence that will unfairly bolster its arguments and prejudice Combs' case. Indeed, at the time CNN destroyed the original footage it knew about and widely reported on the government's investigation into Combs, yet destroyed evidence anyway. The government has no basis to claim the originals are lost or destroyed because it has not attempted to find out. It has therefore ratified CNN's bad faith, and it should not be rewarded. So basically, Combs' defense is arguing that none of the files are the originals, the duplicates are unreliable, and no amount of editing can fix the problem. And then the defense moves on to another argument, that the videos should be excluded from coming into evidence under Rule 403 of the Rules of Evidence. So we've talked about this before. And this is where the court can exclude evidence if its probative value, its relevance to a particular issue, is substantially outweighed by unfairly prejudicing the jury. And here the defense argues, look, while the government may simply say any alterations to the videos, that just goes to how much the jury should weigh the value or reliability of the tapes, meaning it goes to a question for the jury to consider, but allow it in nonetheless. This isn't a question about whether or not it should be admitted in the first place or not. The defense couldn't disagree more. Quote, the manipulation of the videos was specifically designed to inflame the passions of CNN's viewing audience, and that is what the government is hoping to leverage in this case. The videos are sped up to make the violence look more violent. The sequence is reordered to leave the viewer with the impression that the woman has been dragged back to a hotel room, and the clips delete footage that provides important context, making clear that the events were not as horrific as the government will suggest, although that feels like a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. How do you say it's not horrific? I mean, even if it was sped up or slowed down, unless you're saying it was completely doctored and Combs didn't allegedly attack Casandra Ventura, I'm not sure what that context necessarily is. But again, he's not charged with assault. He's charged with sex trafficking, so something there. But the defense concludes by suggesting that if the prosecution wants to prove that this event happened, rely on testimony of those witnesses who apparently appear in the videos. Have them testify. Okay? But otherwise, they claim, they argue, the video should be excluded. Quote, here, where the available video files are not genuine, not accurate, not originals, and it's impossible to make the available video files accurate, none of the inaccurate, unreliable videos should be admitted. Ultimately, if the government has a witness available to testify to the events of March 5th, 2016, such testimony would likely be admissible. However, that testimony and not the inaccurate, prejudicial, distorted footage should be the evidence the jury considers. In conclusion, for the foregoing reasons, Mr. Combs requests that this court hold a hearing and ultimately conclude that none of the available video files of the hotel incident be admitted into evidence at Mr. Combs' upcoming trial. So, will the court hold a hearing this late in the game? I mean, the trial's expected to begin May 5th. A few weeks away, Judge Arun Subramanian just decided against postponing the trial last week, despite objections by the defense regarding other evidence. Will he choose to not include it? Will he agree with Combs? That would be a big blow to the prosecution, as it's not only visual proof of potential sex trafficking and racketeering, pattern of criminal activity, criminal enterprise, all that, but also, if Ventura really is victim one in this case, having that tape come into evidence would support her credibility. Remember, she first alleged that Combs did this to her in her initial November 2023 lawsuit. It was only months later that this tape was published by CNN, and for those out there who were skeptical of her claims, who maybe didn't believe her, you wonder if that tape changed their views, because that tape, published by CNN, arguably mirrored her description in her lawsuit from months earlier. So, will it be excluded, or will Subramanian allow it to come in? And then the defense will be forced to question its reliability or authenticity for the jury, and also simultaneously make the domestic spat argument I mentioned before. At the time of this recording, we couldn't find any ruling from the judge or even a response from the prosecution, but we'll keep an eye out. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.